Hello, and welcome to the Holiday Tech Skills Program, Week 1, Day 1. I hope you are doing good, and let's quickly look at the objectives for today's lessons. So, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to confidently explain coding in your own words, even to a 6-year-old, and that shows that you really understand the concept. And then you should be able to identify at least 3 real-life activities that are similar to coding. I hope you are ready. Let's go on. So, first of all, I would ask you what coding is, and don't pick. So take a minute. You can pause the video at this point and try to remember where you've heard the word from and what you know about it. And then you can write it in your reflection journal. When you are done, you continue with the video. So before we go to the definition of coding, let's look at some activities that we engage in every day of our lives. So you communicate with your parents, you communicate with your siblings. Your parents are able to send you to go and buy something or ask you to perform a task at home, and you actually go on and perform that task because you both speak and understand the same language. And that's what coding is about. It's about talking to the computer, giving the computer instructions. In the scenario I gave the first time, you were interacting with your parents, with human beings. In this particular case, you are interacting with computers. So looking at all these things, we can say coding is giving the computer a set of instructions for it to perform. And just like in our actual situation, we have different languages like English. At home, you may speak Twi, you may speak Ga or any other language. Coding also has many programming languages, in fact, uncountable, and people continue creating some each and every time. So let's look at a few of these programming languages. Let's look at 3 of them. We have Python. Well, don't be scared. Python is not the snake Python, but a language called Python. And then there's Java, and there's another one called Scala. And as I mentioned, there are many more. So let's go through a few simple steps of how coding works. Whenever you code, you give instructions to the computer. The computer follows the instructions you've given it, and then it brings you a result, and that result is what we call output. Now, this output can be in many forms. It can be in the form of a game. You love playing games, right? And your favorite game, probably Roblox, is a result or is an output from someone giving a set of instructions to the computer. You can create an animation. You can create a mobile application, and so many other things. You can create a web application and other applications. Now, one very important thing I want you to note is that the output you get is dependent on the input you give the computer. So I have had experiences where some students will be so frustrated with their programs, with their codes, with the computer. I'm sure if they had a chance, they'll just throw it at the wall. But it's no fault of the computer. That's how the computer was created. The computer doesn't have a mind of its own. It actually relies on you, the instructions you give it, to be able to perform whatever instructions or bring out whatever output you need. So please take notes. Your output is determined by your inputs. And there's a popular term known as giggle. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you give the computer garbage, you are going to get garbage back. Anyway, let's pause for a moment here. If you do not remember the terms, some terms I've used here, computer input and computer output, you can go back to your ICT from probably JHS or primary school. If you are not finding it, let's quickly do a search on Google and search for what is a computer input and what is a computer output. This part you can pause and do it by yourself and write it in your reflection journal. Let's continue. The second thing, order matters a lot. For computers to follow the instructions you've given them, you have to make sure you give the instructions in the right order. If you mix up your instructions, it's going to give you an output that you did not expect. So, if you want the computer to do A first before B, don't go and put B first before A. Let's look at an actual example. In your homes, you wake up in the morning, you wash your face, you brush your teeth, you probably go and sweep or do something around the house, you take your bath and prepare to go to school. You don't wake up and then go to school before brushing your teeth, before washing your face. That's a mixed up order here. You do it in the right order. And that's what determines, so the order in which you put your instructions to the computer determines the output. And the final thing I want you to note here, computers are super fast. They are faster than your mind can comprehend. And so sometimes it's able to do a lot of instructions at the same time in a split second before you realize it. And that means you should have the opportunity to regulate how fast or slow the computer goes through your instructions. These three things I mentioned because we'll be seeing them throughout the program. And before we end today's session, I want you to pick up your reflection journal and do these things. So first, write three things you do every day that follow a step-by-step process. How are these activities similar to coding? Can you write down your thoughts? And then list two areas in your life that needs to have some order. Probably your room, right? Hmm. And you're working on a coding project. So this is actually a project you'll be trying after today's session by yourself. So this is a scenario. You are working on your coding project and your curious 6-year-old brother, even if you don't have a curious 6-year-old brother, we are given a scenario here. So your curious 6-year-old brother comes to see you. He sees you working on the coding project and he asks you, "What is this? Evans or Betty, what is this?" And then you reply, "This is coding." And then he asks a follow-up question, "What is coding? I've never heard that word before." Now, I taught you what coding is. It's your turn to be a teacher to your curious 6-year-old brother. So you are going to explain the concept of coding to him for him to understand. And remember, he's just 6-year-old. He may not understand certain technical words. So explain those words to him in the simplest form possible. I hope you had so much fun today learning a new concept, and I hope you are ready for tomorrow's session. Have a wonderful day. Bye.